Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Sphere podcast studio. Today, I am telling you the long and complete story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad in simple English. This is part 1. This book was written in 1997, and even after so many years, the world still loves it. More than 32 million copies have been sold. Why? Because the book teaches something that schools never teach: how money really works. In this story, the writer, Robert Kiyosaki, talks about two fathers. Not two real fathers, but two different mindsets. His own father, whom he calls Poor Dad, and his best friend Mike's father, whom he calls Rich Dad. His real father was highly educated, a professor, a man who believed in degrees, good jobs, and safety. He always said, study hard, get a good job, earn a stable salary. Mike's father was the opposite. He did not complete his education. But he understood business, opportunity, and money. One day, little Robert saw rich kids in his school. They had better clothes, better bikes, better lunch boxes, and inside his heart, a small fire started. He thought, I also want to be rich. He went to his real father and said, "Can you teach me how to make money?" His father smiled and said, "Son, I am not the right person for this. Mike's father can teach you better." And this moment changed Robert's entire life. Lesson 1. Rich don't work for money. When Robert and Mike went to Rich Dad, he gave them the first and most powerful lesson. Rich people don't work for money. Money works for them. Robert didn't understand this at first. How can money work for someone? Isn't it people who work for money? Rich Dad explained it slowly. Most people spend their entire lives working hard for a salary. They wake up early, get ready, go to work, come home tired, and wait for the next month's paycheck. And before the salary even arrives, they already know exactly where they will spend it. Rent, bills, loans, groceries, and maybe a few small pleasures. Once they get a raise, they don't save the extra money. They increase their lifestyle. A bigger house, a new car, more shopping, more monthly payments. This cycle becomes a trap. Robert calls it the rat race. Running and running, but never moving forward. Rich Dad looked at the boys and said, "If you don't learn how money works, you will spend your whole life chasing money." And that is exactly what the poor and middle class do. Lesson 2. The difference between assets and liabilities. Then Rich Dad taught them something schools never teach: the difference between assets and liabilities. He said, an asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Most people think their house is an asset. It's not. It takes money, loan payments, repairs, taxes. A new car? Not an asset. It loses value and needs fuel and maintenance. A big TV or new phone? Not assets. Assets are things like a small house that you rent out, a small shop, a piece of land, a business, investments that give regular income. Rich people buy assets. Poor people buy liabilities. But they think they are buying assets. Rich Dad said, if you want to be rich, you must buy things that put money in your pocket, even when you are sleeping. Short transition tone. Welcome to part 2 of the story. Now we go deeper. Lesson 3. Learn financial literacy. Rich Dad told Robert, money comes and money goes. But if you know how money works, you can keep it. You can grow it. Schools teach us how to read and write, but they never teach us how to manage money, how to save, how to invest, how to protect money, how to grow money. That is why many highly educated people are still living paycheck to paycheck. Rich Dad said, "Degrees will give you a job. Financial education will give you freedom." Robert understood this lesson deeply. Lesson 4. Mind your own business. Rich Dad told Robert something very interesting. Your job is not your business. Most people spend all their life working for their boss, their company, their salary. But they never build something for themselves. He said, you can keep your job, but start building something on the side. Something small, something simple, something that can grow. He shared the example of McDonald's. Everyone thinks McDonald's is in the burger business, but the founder once said, "My true business is real estate." Every McDonald's store around the world sits on extremely valuable land. The business was not burgers, it was property. Rich Dad wanted Robert to think like that. Lesson 5. Ask the right questions. Poor Dad always said, "I can't afford this." Rich Dad always asked, "How can I afford this?" Rich Dad explained, when you say, "I can't afford it," your brain shuts down. But when you ask, "How can I afford it?" your brain opens. It starts looking for solutions. A closed mind stays poor. An open mind becomes rich. Robert realized that the richest people in the world are great problem solvers, not great complainers. Final summary, both parts. Rich don't work for money. Money works for them. They buy assets, not liabilities. They learn financial literacy. They build businesses, not just careers. They ask better questions and find better answers. Soft outro music fades in. Thank you for listening to today's long episode from English Sphere Podcast Studio. This was the complete, simple, and human-style explanation of Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 2 parts. See you in the next episode. Take care, keep learning, and keep growing. Outro fades.